Unlike the people who have already called me transphobic from just by looking at the title and the thumbnail of this video, I decided to watch Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? And I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, if you're interested in a grown man with a really good looking beard asking basic questions and grown adults getting stuck and stupid and not having an answer for those basic questions, go watch the documentary. But more importantly, I believe more documentaries like this need to be produced and made and distributed to the public. Not just on trans issues, gay issues, but on black issues like the Candace Owens documentary that I hope does what it intends to do and is not just a bunch of bullshit. There needs to be more discussion about all these different types of issues in the landscape that is the world, because you have a lot of people who spend their time saying, this is definitive, this is 100%, there's nothing wrong with it, this is obviously the issue, this is obviously how it is presented, and if you disagree or if you try to add on to it, or if you don't say what I want you to say, you're obviously an ismophobic, a chobic, a mentally ill patient, or somebody who wants to see all of us suffer. And I think that's a poor way to go about this. When it comes to conversations, you have people in all walks of life who don't know anything about everybody. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody has a different understanding. Everybody got a different opinion. It's just like an asshole. Everybody got them, and more likely than not, they're shitty. But it's important to have these types of conversations so that you can understand other people. Just gaslighting and saying, you're a transphobe and all you're gonna do is hate against trans people if you don't agree with everything I'm saying. If you excuse certain behaviors and not talk about it, if you bloviate and say there's nothing wrong with this obvious thing, even though that there are some people out there who view it as wrong, there are some people who have done it and thought against it afterwards and have tried to tell people that, hey, don't get gaslight, don't get put in these situations where people peer pressure you, don't have people tell you what you are, you must believe what you are inside. And yet there's this conversation of, oh, that doesn't happen, oh, it's only a low percentage, oh, it doesn't really matter. Well, Matt Walsh, and thereby proxy anybody who was interested in the documentary, has something to say about that. It's important that we have these conversations, understand what is a woman, understand that, hey, there are people out there who are having to spend thousands of dollars to transition from a boy to a girl or to a girl to a boy. And it's important that we understand that everything isn't just black and white. Everything isn't rosy cheeked and 100% and everybody's gonna come together and sing kumbaya and sing songs. It's important that you talk about the bad along with the good that exists there. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself for turning into a boy when you're a girl. I'm gonna say, understand that if you're making that choice, you gotta understand the risk with that. You gotta understand that maybe at this young age, which is about 8 years old, you might not actually think like this when you turn 10 or when you turn 11 or when you turn 18 or when you're 34. Remember, there was somebody who was peer pressured into doing this, and then afterwards they thought this really wasn't it.
So I'm gonna get into trans and mental delusion and everything because it's been called that before. When I was in my early 20s, I lived in Olympia, Washington, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and she told me, you are a boy. And I was like, not so sure about that. But she pressed it and pressed it enough. She's like, look at the way you dress, look at your mannerisms, look at the way you talk. I'm like, okay, well, I still talk the same. Still have these same mannerisms. I mean, today I wear boots and jeans. With them I wear girl pants, you know, like Miss Me's rock revivals, you know, etc., etc. Doesn't matter. But she was damn convinced. Yeah, you're a guy. So I went with it, wrote this like page essay that she wanted me to write as to why you are. I started binding. I went with this stupid different name. I still remember it. It's dumb. And, you know, went with that little acceptance. Yeah. And that was in my early 20s. Once I broke up with her, got away from those friends, I wanted nothing to do with that. And I immediately stopped. And I thought I was so glad that I am who I am today. Thank God. Oh my gosh. Really enjoy just being me. I look at the younger generation today and what they're doing to kids and how easy it is for their minds and to just flop that. And it's like a mental delusion, because I was a full-ass grown adult convinced by one person, their friends supported me, and it was like instant, fine, okay. And if I hadn't have gone away from that, I have no idea what would have happened. I don't. So do I think it's a mental delusion? Yeah, I do. Are there people who are trans and stuff? Well, you know what? Fine. But I really do feel like it's not okay, and especially for the younger kids. Especially, it's not okay. They're way too young. If that happened to me in my early 20s and I was convinced that quick, imagine these younger kids with just like a single teacher telling them, you are not a boy, you're a girl, or the other way around.
I started transitioning, taking testosterone my sophomore year of college, and I stopped transitioning about a year ago, so I've been off hormones for a year. Well, I've been off testosterone. Now I take a little bit of estrogen every day to kind of, quote, get my body back to normal. But I started noticing things in my daily life like, I'm gonna put off this testosterone shot, and then it would end up, I would just never take it, and then I would take it weeks later, and my hormones would just be horribly off balance. I started to, dress a certain way and was like, oh, this is more comfortable. I stopped, binding. I never wanted top or bottom surgery. I kind of had this idea every day of like, I used to be so much happier as just a bush lesbian, and then, I would think back to, why did I transition in the first place? And, it kind of always came down to like, wow, I was really lost at the time. I was in an abusive relationship with my ex-girlfriend and with her parents, who highly influenced me to think that, if I was a man, my life would be better. My relationship would be perfect. All of our problems would go away. And that's not the case. And that's also not to say that I didn't kind of exhibit other traits of like being transgender, but that's kind of what it came down to. There was a lot of, I guess, pressure, and I was just lost. And I'm not saying that, being transgender isn't real or anything like that, but I just kind of wanted to open up the conversation.
All I'm saying is, as much as you want to cry about transphobia, as much as you want to pretend like everything's so rosy cheek, as much as you want to not talk about how there are some individuals out there who are really desperate to get kids to validate them because they can't even look in the mirror and validate themselves, whether you want to talk about how some people want to gaslight others into just believing something, even though it's really hard to understand because of the facial expressions and the facial hair and maybe a little bit of confusion, and even when you're trying to get that understanding, you still turn into some weird loser. There is a conversation to be had, and if you want to have it, you are more than capable. You would just have to sit down, talk your points, and then listen to other people's points. And if you can't do that, you might as well just stay on Twitter with your 150 characters and bitch all day about how people think differently from you, because it's not for you. Anybody who's willing to have a conversation, whether you're trans, straight, gay, bi, I'm bi, and I'm not that much of a pussy, and you're actually interested in trying to understand the mindset of some people and how easy it is for them to get stumped by basic logical questions, but you're a little bit hopeful for some form of improvement, watch the documentary. It's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna bite. It's not gonna cause you to start hating yourself. It's really just gonna have you thinking, I want to have more conversations with people who think differently, along with trying to understand them and why they think the way they think, why they do what they do. And maybe if I do that, I could have a little bit more clarity and understanding about what I'm doing, because maybe I'm in the wrong about something, or maybe I'm in the right, and maybe a new perspective could help me get that way. Is it that hard? Is it that evil? Is it that diabolical? Of course not. Some people are just too pussified to admit when they're wrong. So congratulations to Matt Walsh. I've seen him doing some funny bits where he's getting death threats and he's just poking fun at everybody, even though he has his Second Amendment right to fuck any of you up that would try. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all in the next one. And yes, along with being a doctor, philanthropist, gynecologist, veterinarian, dog walker, bacon connoisseur, I'm also a biologist.